I lived here in New Jersey from 1968 until about 1984, and I thought I'd show a little history of sort of this area and its growth before I show you some of the sights and exciting memories from my childhood.
Most people, just as they are in every other town in the country, are living on tomorrow's business. We go out and we borrow for the things we want today. We went to automobiles. Your wife needs one and you need one. We keep the house outside and inside looking a little better than what the pocketbook will afford. I think that's the way the people of Bricktown live.
The people of Bricktown, there are 44,000 of them, are working people, wage earners who live on $11,000 to $15,000 a year. When Tom and Betty Hussenetter moved here, Bricktown probably had more trees than it did people, but that was 8 years ago.
Up until that time, I had never heard of Bricktown. And we laughed when we did hear the name of the town because I thought it was just a pin spot someplace in the woods, a swamp or something.
But it was a great place to grow up. It wasn't exactly like what you just saw in this show. Quite frankly, my memories here are absolutely very fond. I enjoyed the heck out of it. So I'm going to show you around a little bit. I'm going to take you by this cool place where we used to go sledding with our families when we were kids. I'll share some of the memories of that from when I was younger and take you by where we lived and show you some of the things that we did to have fun, to earn money, which we did as kids back then. But yeah, this was a really cool drive, kind of through my hometown and living back through the experiences of what this part of New Jersey was like, especially in the late 60s and 70s into the 80s, which is when I was living here. I was born in 1968 and, lived here until about 84 or so. So, grew up for most of my childhood here. This is the Ocean County College. And what's interesting is I was too young to even think about college when, I guess I was old enough, but I didn't. Anyway, what we used to do here is go sledding. I'll show you where. The entrance to this place looks pretty nice, though. In the springtime, it's probably even prettier with all these trees filled in, but we always came in the dead of winter. All right, so the funny thing is I'm driving here through OCC, Ocean County College, and I'm looking for the place that our parents used to take us sledding when we were kids. It wasn't far from our house, but we used to come out here because there was this massive hill that we would sled on. Now, granted, it's been 45 years, 45 years since I came sledding out here. So things have likely changed a little. Like the campus is huge. The buildings are all over the place. So I'm not 100% sure, but I think this might be the area. And it's a little bit funny when you look at something that you thought was massive or so exciting as a kid, and then you look at it now. So you can kind of see some of the school right here, even with the buildings in the background. Kind of a neat view, though. We're at the ocean right there, just saying, for Ocean County College. But I think that little hill right there is our massive sledding hill that I recall as a kid. Because I remember if you went one way, you can go really long, and it wasn't very steep. So I think kind of down this side where the ocean sign wasn't here at the time. and then that was the hill. And I think this was it because I do remember that if you weren't careful, you would just go sailing right across the road. So this kind of makes sense. But, I don't know, probably a good sledding hill when you're 10. Right now, it looks like barely a grade. This cracks me up, man. But yeah, that was it. We would climb up to the top of that and just work our way up and down this hill so many times and then go right down across this road and into the parking lot if you weren't careful. But that was fun as could be, and we had a blast. I remember wearing our heavy coats and leggings, a coat for your legs, something that, well, I'll never, ever, ever have to wear because I'm never going to be anywhere that cold. But yeah, really cool stuff. It's kind of fun looking at all these sights and these things that you remember so differently when you were younger. This is really cool, kind of seeing this Gruen Arts Complex, and they have a lot of things in here with the theater and the Performing Arts Center and a planetarium, and I love it. All over campus they have these statues like this. It looks fairly realistic. They're good. Sort of casually dressed folks, and they have tennis players and scientists and teachers. It's neat looking. So So I grew up in Brick Township, New Jersey, and we lived in this little housing development called Lake Riviera. And what's interesting is, yeah, there's a lake here, and it was a big deal when we'd get our fishing poles and ride our bikes to go fishing or whatever. And it felt like we were scurrying all over town, but this was always a big deal. Like, I remember when I was, finally old enough, I don't know, 8 or 10 years old, to be able to ride my bicycle down to the 7-Eleven to get some, 2-cent candy back in the day on the shelf there. So this is that 7-Eleven, and man, we had a blast coming up here and getting a Slurpee or whatever it was. And it's funny, I think about those memories, and geez, we rode all over this neighborhood as kids, and nowadays it seems like our grandkids don't even go out and ride their bikes much. It's just it's a different thing, right? We didn't have video games as much. I guess we had a little Intellivision and Atari back then, but we were outside doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And I'll show you a few of these little things that as a kid, they were big adventures. Now they're puddles and creeks and streams and paths, but it was fun as a kid. This is kind of leaving the neighborhood, and you can see that fence right there along the edge of the waterway. That's where the lake from this side of the highway or road had a waterfall on it and kind of went underneath the road there. It's funny the things you remember. This used to be a place called D. Rose Furniture, and I can remember as kids, we would love it when they would repave their parking lot, every few years or whatever, and then we would come out here and skateboard all around on that parking lot. It was a big deal. All right, turning on to Lakeshore Boulevard. Behind me is actually where the lake was mentioned in the waterfall before. That's where it was, right back there. We just lived up this way. See how well I remember all these street names and stuff. I know we had to turn up Virginia was the name of the street. I think right up here. I like the fact that all these woods are still in here and big trees and whatnot. It's kind of neat. Up Virginia Avenue. Well, that's a big house right there. Wow. Don't remember any of that size when we lived here. As you'll see from ours. But man, some of these, where these houses are, used to just be wooded lots. And I can remember as kids, me and my friend from across the street, John and Joey, we would go get a lawnmower and go mow a path through the woods somewhere on a lot. And then we would ride our bikes in there like crazy. Even our house had woods on 3 sides, and I remember always having forts in there and stuff like that. It was awesome. All right, Arizona, and then we're going to come up on Spruce Drive, which is the one we lived on. What's funny is where our house is up here, it used to be just in the woods. So you see the house right here with the white with the blue shutters, and then this 2-story one on the left. The one we lived in was right between that. So the gray one right there was the house. With solar panels all on it. Very cool. This wasn't here. There's woods right there. And I can remember a little girl I liked named Andrea Shrim used to live in this house. And then there was a creek that went right here where these woods are, and we used to play in that little creek and float boats in it and everything else. We had a blast. And then this house right here, there was a guy, Tony Caruso Catering, had one of those catering trucks that you take to construction sites, and my job was to go down there every day, wash the truck, restock the food, the drinks, the ice. Earned money as a kid that way. So very cool. Now, I'm just riding around the block here. Obviously knew a lot of the people right here on this street because they lived right across the creek from us. That creek that I showed you it curved and went down behind our house. So we would race those boats from that little area I showed you and then go kind of behind the houses. And I'll show you right up here. What's crazy is, see where this duck crossing sign is? That creek. See, I'll stop and show you. So this wasn't all filled in. This used to sort of be the creek. It curved right into this area from in the woods that way, came this way, and then kind of came here. At some point they filled that in, but it used to go into a big culvert thing and then go underneath the road and come right over this way. Again, we would float little boats down this and run up and down this little creek of water. Just had a blast as kids, man. The amount of time we spent playing in these creeks was crazy. Frankly, some of those are my best childhood memories. Like, we would take old pieces of wood or broken firewood and we would build little boats and, we'd fancy them up, and then we would go to the end of it and we would race the boats while we were running barefoot up and down this stream with each other. Just an absolute blast. And it's funny, I can actually remember in the woods on the side of the house, we built a fort one time. And me and my friends, if we found like a Playboy magazine, that was a big deal. And I remember we hung the pictures all up in the fort of this, from the Playboy magazine, I hung all the pictures up. And one weekend I was at my dad's house, and when I came home, my mom's like, hey, why don't you take your dad out and show him your fort? And I'm like, nah, he's not going to want to go. It's getting late. And my dad's like, I don't want to go out in the woods. And my mom's like, no, really, you should go see his fort. I knew I was busted. We used to have a Great Dane. I can remember getting my skateboard and the leash and taking the leash and running on down here with the Great Dane behind it. And then this house right over here on the right here. And this was my best friend's house. Joey lived right there, and his brother John, sister Tishi, and Donna, who used to babysit us from time to time. So fun thinking of all those memories. So Shore Rock Street, near where our street was, turns into Beaverton Boulevard. And what's wild is these woods on the left, there's a housing development right there. And on the other side of that housing development was the woods that kind of was behind our house. So this Lion's Head Park or Lion's Head neighborhood was sort of a retirement community. And at the holidays, we'd go into the woods, cut down a small little birch tree, cut it into segments, drill some holes in the top of it, staple holly onto it, put candles in it, and we would sell Yule logs house to house over there. And just at Christmas time, that's how, as a 10, 12, 13-year-old, that's how I made money. It was awesome, the kind of things we were able to do. Just a little creativity, little creativity. I guess young entrepreneurship, maybe, who knows. I also had the Green Thumb lawn service that I did for a while. We would shovel snow on the driveways in the winter, whatever you could do to make a few bucks. Before I end this and I show another clip from that CBS News special about moving to the suburbs, thanks for indulging me with this. This was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. Hope you guys did okay with the fact that I shared it with you. It was kind of fun thinking it through. All right, bye y'all.
But to the people who live in brick, the sprawl, the high taxes, and the highways are not what their town is about.
Blesses, O Lord, for these thy gifts, which we are about to receive from thy bounty.